All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Assemble. My name's High Ruler, and today we're coming back from our mid-season break here with the Avengers Weekly Recap, joined as always by Stardust. Stardust, how you doing?
Doing all right, mate. How are you? Going
I'm
to
good.
do your CPR training, leaving me on
I
my
know.
own.
Yeah, I know. So, guys, last week there was an Avengers Weekly Recap because I had my CPR AED training. Got to get it done every 3 years, so it came up. And because of that, I left Stardust out on the streets by himself for a week. So I'm happy to see Stardust survived and he's back with us. But it was a
I had to
challenging
fight.
time. It was a
I
challenging
had to
time, right?
fight a man for a piece of ham on the floor.
I'm assuming you won because you're still here, right?
I didn't win. He ate my
He
leg.
okay. Well, there you go, guys. So apparently
I
Stardust has
have
had a
I
rough
have
week.
one leg now. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well,
Hi, ruler.
yeah, no problem, man. I'm happy to do that, whatever that is, I guess. All right, guys. So this week we're not just going to talk about Stardust's missing leg. We're going to be talking about Tachyon Anomaly MCU skins potentially revealed next week. We're going to go through some questions and we're going to talk about all the major topics here over the past, I guess, 2 weeks. Well, last week there wasn't really much to talk about, anyways, right? Like it was actually like a good
Uh,
week for me to have like CPR training.
I think that last week was the mention of my building depression from being betrayed time and time again from my friend Jonathan High Ruler.
Okay, yeah. So
Uh,
nothing
he
happened
only
last week,
just
guys. So
He only just recently added me on PSN, everyone. Just want you all to know that.
it's true. It's true. It was the highlight of his week. The
You've
highlight of
never
my
played
week,
before.
the highlight of my week was kind of just getting this more information about Tachyon Anomaly out there into the wild, because now we can finally get an understanding of what we're getting with this event. Now, kind of looking at it, you know, there's so much we can like break down about the event. Everything about this event just pretty much screams like this is a tech test. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I do. All right, so
Mm.
the thing is with this event is that it doesn't scream anything major to me. When you really break it
Yes.
down, right, it is
Yes.
essentially, like you said, a tech test. It's just
Mm.
like doing something that could have been in the game at launch if they wanted it to, if it could have been. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yep.
something that just could have been there anyway. But then putting an event around it and giving it some glamour and glitz is kind of something this game needed anyway.
Yeah.
And like treating, even if people see through it as
Mm.
like we are right now, as like, oh, it's just this and that's
Right.
it pretty
Right.
much, right? But we're just a load of glitz and glamour. At least it's something, you know what I mean? And
Sure.
if we're
Yep.
getting something along those lines, but it gets progressively bigger as the months go on, because that seems to be the idea,
Mm.
then I mean, I'm fine with that. Like,
Yeah.
if there's stuff to earn through this event, which it seems like there are, then I'm cool with that. I'm fine. And
Yeah.
it's just sort of seeing how it all pans out in the end.
Yeah. I mean, like this is like their first kind of run through of like events or whatever. You know what I mean? So like, I guess like the idea we could talk about, we can even expand this topic to like the animated nameplates, for example, because like everything so far that they've shown with Tachyon Anomaly has been like what I've expected, right? So it's like a very basic event. You get like one new Tachyon mission, but everything's just kind of like run of the mill. And then like even the rewards, like or not even like the rewards, but the animated nameplates that they're you know attaching to this event are just kind of like standard run of the mill animated nameplates that I thought we were gonna get, right? So um
Mm.
I was on stream with Miller on Thursday, and
Mm.
we'd basically said that like the animated nameplates are gonna be like Pokemon Hollow cards. You know what I mean? Like they're like it's gonna be like nothing spectacular, and then like lo and behold, what do they show? Nothing spectacular. You know what I mean? So like
Here's the thing with that, and this
yeah.
goes into like a big conversation that I was having before, is
Mm,
that in a sentence, Phil kind of cleared everyone's mind a little bit by saying this
right.
isn't the standard for animated nameplates,
Sure.
right? There's going to
Yep.
be animation in there with characters moving and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And in my head, I'm thinking, well, then why didn't you show those ones? show
Not wrong. Yeah.
show your best shit. Like put it
Yeah.
front and center. And like even if that's not a part of the Tachyon Anomaly event, like then it's what you've done is because not everyone's gonna see that one sentence, right?
Yep.
They're gonna see the GIF you put on your Twitter page of the
Yeah.
ones like that. And don't get me wrong, they're not awful. They're not. I wouldn't
No.
pay any money for them, like, but you know, it's the but it's the fact that there are clearly better ones coming,
Yeah.
and you've given it, you know, and again, and it goes back to like, I don't know if I am stepping the gun a little bit here, but I
Mm.
won't talk about what the skins are until we get into them. But the
Right.
new skins that were shown, right? You
Yeah.
went from the best one probably to the absolute worst one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wrong way round, lads. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
wrong way round, lads. Build it up a little bit. You don't kind of like excite people, then shit on their excitement. You
Yeah.
kind of make people think, "Oh, is that the standard?" And you go, "What?" You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and it's the same with these. It's same with these animated nameplates. Is what it's done is like, yeah, okay, fair enough. That kind of breaks my point. It's like you see that there, but because people are going to miss that one sentence and just going to look at that gif, they're going to think, well, I'm never getting excited for animating nameplates ever again. Like, because if that's all they are,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, like, I agree. I definitely agree. I think their strategy now has been like, don't talk about things until it's like next up on the roadmap. You know what I mean? So like, when it comes to like even like the Red Room takeover, like Andy let it slip that it's a timed event. That wasn't he like, and like that felt like a genuine slip. He's like, oh, I didn't know if I should say that or not. So like, I feel like the cool animated A planes are gonna come with Red Room Takeover, and that's why they have to show us like the first
Probably,
batch.
yeah.
Like the first batch is obviously the worst ones. I mean, I said it, I knew it. It was like, to me, it was like they're gonna have something that looks pretty cheesy, and people are gonna hate it, and then they'll come out with like, I don't know if they'll do like motion comics or just like, you know, moves from the game or something that are done like, um you know, and you'll see stuff like that, and then you're like, wow, animated nameplates are really cool, but these ones are like, wow, this is like worse than like, you know, a Pokemon card that's a hollow foil. You know what I mean? Like,
Do you do you
mm,
think they'll have like scenes from the MCU as
not a
animated
chance,
nameplates?
not a chance, not a chance. Like,
Do you not?
no, not a chance.
Like
No, no,
with like
I
just
don't.
to see a simple no wait, just a simple scene of like a suit up animation or
Nope,
something, like
nope,
Tony, you know, tapping his
nope,
chest and nano things
nope.
going over him for the suit.
Yeah, do you want to
Really?
pay? Do you want to pay RDJ that money?
No, I'm all right, mate.
Yeah, well,
No,
you
but
know,
it doesn't have to be. They don't have to have their face in
I
it.
would guarantee that the money that would require is too much for Crystal Dynamics to even justify. It's like, I don't know the licensing and like the issues. It's probably the same reason why we'll never see cartoons. We'll never see cartoons animated nameplates. What we'll get is like motion comics at most, if not scenes from the game itself. I would be the most surprised person in the world if they brought out animated nameplates on in May as part of like the MCU kind of homage, and like part of that was like a Black Widow scene from the movie. I would absolutely lose my mind. To me, that is so far out of the realm of like possibility. I just can't see it happening. You know, like I just, when it comes to like stuff like, so my sense is anything that comes with like actors or movies or stuff like that, I like, it's the same reason why you don't get like the like RDJ's face in like your MCU Iron Man suit. You know, like I feel like there's so much red tape surrounding a lot of that stuff that I just don't consider it a possibility for that reason. You know?
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, I think that the thing is with sort of animated nameplates and stuff like that is like, when to me, when
Mm.
I think of animated nameplates, I think of something, to be fair, something similar to what they showed, but
Mm.
also, you know, like obviously moving characters and stuff like
Sure.
that. But I
Yeah.
think that I don't want people, I'm a bit nervous that people's expectations for them are going to be something crazy. They're just meant to be, when they say animated, they have already hit that ballpark. It's still an
Right.
animation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still, they
Just a
can
really
tick that.
ugly one. Yeah.
Yeah, they can tick that off if they really decided to. But the fact that they mentioned that, oh yeah, there is, you know, moving characters and stuff like that, then that's a good sign, you know. And I think that even if it is just scenes from the game and it's just cool little things, like maybe I don't know who that guy is that makes the combat gifs. Summit Legend.
Mm.
Posted him the other day. Either way, I apologize, but either way, that guy, you know, he could get him to just do a bunch of like little clips for the animated nameplates and
Yeah.
just stick them on. Like, that's could be something as basic as that, or it could be something just like cool little comic panels being brought to life a little bit, or you know.
Well, that's the only
But
reason I think that like motion comics are like more in line with like the expectations, because like we already have comic panels or comic scenes. So then make them a motion comic, and there you go. Like that's probably pretty doable, I would imagine, right?
Yeah,
You know,
hopefully. I mean,
like
look, this is also being from the same people that delayed the Sarah Garza nameplate. So let's not get no. I'm
no,
joking.
and you're not wrong. It's just like I look at motion comics as like doable because they already have comics in the like comic panels in the game. So for me, the leap isn't that far to make, right? Versus like full
Yeah,
on
no,
like
for sure.
4 second scenes from like Iron Man or like Black Widow or the Avengers. Like to me, like there's so much red tape around stuff like that that like for me like it's not even the realm of possibility. Now, for example, if there were stills from these movies that were nameplates already, then the possibilities in my mind open up because they're already in the game, right? So like there's like a few things that have to happen for me to consider something. We just haven't got to that point where I'm considering like MCU scenes or cartoon scenes or stuff
Well,
like that.
here's okay. I'm going to throw another question out. Then there have been some tie-in books to the MCU in comic form.
Sure. Oh, so
So
you're
what
saying
about them?
can you do like the MCU tie-in comics? I mean, that might be doable, right?
Yeah, in motion, obviously motion,
Yeah,
comic
because
form and
I
stuff
guess
like that.
if you're I'd have yeah, I guess because if they're comics, they could fall under like the licensing for the comics.
Exactly.
That's an
See, there you
interesting
go.
workaround there. Yeah, that's an interesting
There you
workaround.
go. Loopholes, loopholes, people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about like the licensing specifically, so like I can't speak as like a true authority on a lot of this stuff. I just whenever I think of like actors or stuff like that, to me it's just so much red tape. But if these things are already in the comics and they have access to like the comic library for their nameplates, which seemingly they do, you know, that is an interesting loophole right there.
Exactly. There we go.
Yeah.
See, so see,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, if you need someone to hustle for you, you know, I've got it.
Yep. There you
I've
go.
got it.
Yeah, I mean Square Enix has that, you know, UK office or whatever. So,
You said it right. You
I
said
know,
it. I'm gonna
I know.
cry.
It's a big moment, right? It's a big moment for us. It's a big moment for me in the community, you know. But I
You
mean,
did it.
they do have that UK office there, man. So I mean, it's not, you know,
I don't
it's
know. I don't know if I want the smoke of being put under the Avengers team. Bless them. They go through a lot.
yeah, they do, they do. I mean, then I could get like actual like leaks, you know, that'd be kind of cool.
Oh, is that all you want before? I see how it is.
Yeah,
No
well,
wonder,
you know.
no wonder you jump in those Miller streams.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a little dry out here right now, man. Like, there's not a lot of news coming out, you know. Like, um,
Which is weird, right? Given the fact that we're sort of close to an event and then closer to another event tied to the MCU, you think there'd be like all sorts of shit in the pipes that'll
yeah.
be leaking, but apparently not.
Well, I mean, the leak stuff is just like, I mean, like the leak stuff. There's like a few factors going on with the leak stuff, right? Is that in terms of like personnel leaks, like people that work at Crystal or Square leaking, like yeah, I mean that doesn't really happen often. And then like the way they've like built, and like Miller can speak to this more, but the way they've started deploying their patches and stuff just means like a lot of the stuff isn't making it to the public client. So like they've they're running a tight ship over there, you know? Like it's not really like it ain't leaking like it used to, you know? Which
It's
is
a shame,
unfortunate
mate. It's a
because like
shame.
yeah, it is because like we you know, cuz like unfortunately when you look at Tachyon Anomaly, it's like the smallest one that there will be, right? Like understandably, this is like the smallest one, and then Red Root Takeover will probably build up and then build up and then build up, and then you'll have like the culmination of like War for Wakanda, which will be a huge expansion, right? But unfortunately, like sometimes leaks, oh, you can get into this like weird conversation that about the role that leaks play, but like right now, people are already kind of looking past Tachyon Anomaly. You know, like I like personally, like it'll be fun to log on and play with some viewers, play with some friends. But like other than that, it's like I'm already looking past it because like it doesn't really bring anything new to the game, you know?
There's a couple of things that kind of like if I'm able to just get on their article really quick,
Yeah.
there's stuff there that like that the weekly mission chain that
Yes.
awards hive mind gear. Do we know? Oh, I don't think they specified this, but I'd
Hmm.
like to imagine they're exotic, surely, because there have been legendary hive mind set gear.
It doesn't say the rarity of it. It says during these 2 weeks there will be a weekly mission chain that rewards hive mind set gear and daily missions that reward priority set gear for high level heroes. It doesn't specify.
I mean, to be fair, the fact that there's daily missions
Hmm.
for priority set gear is interesting, especially because in the dev stream, Phil was like, "We're literally on a dozen bugs left." Like I've had a good few
For
playthroughs of OLTs,
yeah.
and obviously priority set gear we've seen is like got cloning lab stats on it, right? Like whether it's
Mm,
status damage, normal damage, whatever,
right.
and obviously if they feel confident it'll be coming soon, potentially in those priority set gears, I wouldn't be against seeing different OLTs pop
Hmm.
up in the stats and stuff like that. But that's me getting ahead of myself. Anyway, it's cool that there's cool that there is a bunch of stuff here, even if it is something relatively quite small. It's you can tell this is one that doesn't really need to go on for 2 weeks. Though,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yep.
definitely not an event that needs 2 weeks, right? But
No.
obviously, to have 2 weeks stretched out means that they can get more data from it, and that I totally get. And because they don't want people to see it as just a stress test for something they can add in the future,
Right.
obviously they've put a bunch more stuff in there, and I appreciate that. Like, it's,
Yep.
fair enough, but I think that it'll be one that it'll breathe fresh air
Yeah.
without really adding anything. Do you know what I mean? Really, because it's
It's
all going to be the same missions, but just with
mm,
either a bit of another timer to it, or it's or the fact that we can now just play as the same guys, which I mean will give us a good few days to experiment and try different things.
right.
But is it going to be something that people get bored of the first week, and then week two is just kind of run of the mill? All right, I'll log on, do my daily priority mission
Mm,
thing, and then just get off again. But well, it's a wait and see thing. I'll probably be playing it every day just because I'm a nerd.
sure. Yeah.
So,
N-
but
I mean,
yeah,
I foresee it being what you said. It's gonna be like, basically people are gonna be like, oh, this is like kind of cool, and then the second week rolls around and people are just kind of bored of it. I mean, the unfortunate thing, I had a really good call with someone on my stream on Friday, and they were like, this is pretty much what I'm already playing, and now they're just like making it bigger. And he's like, for me, this doesn't really change the game in any meaningful way. And it's like, I guarantee a lot of people are gonna feel. I guarantee that's gonna be like the big sentiment. Once we get a few days of like this under our belts, people are gonna be like, this doesn't really do anything. Because like the unfortunate thing is like everyone's at that end game part. Now I say everyone. Now granted, if you're just coming new to the game or whatever, you're not there yet, potentially.
yeah,
But more people are at that end game and they're waiting for those OLTs, which was like great to hear Phil say like there's only 12 or so bugs left. Like there's only a dozen bugs. I've had a good few playthroughs of it. So like for me, that's like Phil always speaks about he's like a few patches forward than us. So like I wonder where in his mind he's at with his patches versus where we are, because like we get what is it? It's like 1.6 on next Tuesday. Yeah,
yeah.
1.6.0. So like if we're on 1.6 coming Tuesday and he's speaking of like a few dozen patches, is he on like 1.6.1 or 1.7? Like I'm trying not to get myself too hyped that like, these 2 weeks attacking Anomaly are gonna wrap up and then like OLTs are coming right after. You know what I mean? Like for me, OLTs still seemingly look to be like an end of May situation if all things go as planned.
Well, I see. The thing is, right, with events,
Yeah.
and especially them dragging this one for 2 weeks, this
Mm,
gives them 2 weeks to kind of, without a lot of headache,
mm,
do continuous stuff like that. You know what I mean? Stuff that they need to collect up on. So like, oh, we have 2 weeks here of pretty much uninterrupted to get these IoT sorted. We can get a bit more done, because the thing is with Avengers is that they're kind of working while having to make new stuff.
yeah.
Whereas, like, because there's something going on at the very least, so like there is something new every
Mm,
day, whether it's priority set gear or whatever, or it's, just, oh, I can play with the different set of mates who play as Clint and I'll play as Clint. It'll be fun. This
right.
the new experimentation and that to be had. So at least for 2 weeks, they can pretty much be focused on LT bugs, squashing them, and
Yep.
all that other stuff. So I think that we'll see a good amount of progress made towards that during these 2 weeks, fingers crossed, because it can be all hands on deck rather than people worrying about like getting this thing out properly, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, like potentially if they don't have to like hot patch anything after like the release of Attack on
exactly,
Anomaly.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. Do you see, based on Phil's comments about OLTs, do you see them before or after Red Room Takeover? Now, say for example, I'm gonna ballpark Red Room Takeover, so we get Attack on Anomaly on the 22nd. I'll say for the sake of argument, Red Room Takeover is the 20th of May. Do you see Attack on Anomaly coming before that or after that? Or sorry, not Attack on Anomaly, OLTs.
I don't know, man. Like, because at the end of the day, OLTs at this point, even with Phil sounding confident, it's one of those things where it's like you just don't know. Like
Yeah.
they were relatively quite confident. They must have been because they advertised it like fuck at launch.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if,
No, I agree.
even though it's amazing to see Phil seem quite confident, how do we know? You know, if that confidence is just like, okay, we're better than we were, or
Right.
because what are these 12 bugs? Do you know what I mean? They could be really
Yeah.
bad,
Yeah.
really,
No.
really, really bad, and really difficult to iron out, which they must be, or else they wouldn't still be there.
Yep.
So it's one of those things of like, how long will those take? So I don't think it will be here before Red Room Takeover. I'd like to be surprised, obviously. I think the fact that we're getting multiple is a good sign. I mean, I, when they do come out, this is almost an entirely different conversation, but when they do come out, having like, so say we're just guessing one of them. So obviously we've got Labs, we've got Super Adaptoid. Let's just assume there's like a Clint one, you know.
Sure.
Um, it would suck to not have like another one that's just completely off the cuff, unannounced, out of nowhere sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that players have waited so long, and obviously they've said that they've made like a good few OLTs that to kind of like have people just oh, we've got these three and that's it, kind of whatever. I don't know. I just don't want to get to OLTs and be pretty bummed out that it is just Cloning Labs, Super Adaptoid, Maestro, or whatever,
Right.
and
Yep.
that's just my concern with it. Just people already getting bummed out because it isn't more than what it,
Like the variety of villains, essentially, right?
yeah,
Like,
as well,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no, I agree. I think like, I mean, that's always been my fear with OLTs. Even though, like you said, Phil's getting pretty excited. My worry is that they just land with a thud. And that's where I'm at. It's like, maybe these are like the most like mechanically intensive missions ever. Like, there's a lot of good teamwork, but like, if they like sometimes with stuff like this, it's like, who are you fighting against? Like, are the fights any good against this villain specifically? Like, do you, like, because people are already kind of tired of fighting Super Adaptoid and Maestro or whatever. So like, you can have like the coolest fight, but like, it's still against Maestro. It's still against Super Adaptoid. So people may not appreciate it as much as they would have if it came out like on time. You know?
Yeah, and that's the issue is that like because it's not something that's pumping out pretty regular updates anyway. People have already fought Maestro too much,
Yeah.
and it's not like and it's and
Well,
granted,
depending
I'm not
on who you
expecting to
are,
see.
well, I was just gonna say, depending on who you are, with these villain sectors, you may have not fought Maestro that much actually.
That's true. Yeah, no, that's a good point to be honest. But like, well, no, because to me, like, obviously, you fought him a few times. To a lot of people's eyes, that's probably too much anyway, right? Because
Yeah, true.
even though he's not Abomination, he's still a big gamma monster.
Gamma Monster.
So
Yeah.
the feeling is still there. You know what I mean? The similar sort of vibes. I think the best time I fought Maestro was the first time, and I know that's obvious because it's like, well, you don't know what he's, but I felt weak compared to him, and I had to be careful. And there was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sort of strategy when I was fighting him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's just like, oh, I'll do my fucking crazy build and just kill him off super quick, and it's just that's it. And it's
Yeah.
and it's the same with all the other villains. And it's like, yeah, Super Adaptoid's got all these cool mechanics if you leave him alone for a little bit, but you have to leave him alone for a little bit and let him get on
Right.
with it. And it's like, no, I'll just go and kill him, done. And obviously, fingers crossed that when Phil says OLTs have advanced, hopefully the bosses do too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. All right, so that is the OLT section. I mean, like sooner rather than later, but we'll get them when we get them. I guess is like kind of the whole kind of situation surrounding
I
them.
hear the little breathlessness in your voice when you said that. It's because it's we have to say that sentence all the time because there is no confidence in it, and that's no
Yeah,
slight on them either. It's just like it gets to a point where it's like, uh,
yeah,
you
yeah. I
know,
mean,
and
it
then
sucks because like as content creators for the game, we want as much content as we can, and unfortunately, like we're kind of in that weird spot of the game again, right? Where we're waiting for new information, right? We're waiting for new things to be added to the game, and because of that, the game is at like a very stale point. Like unfortunately, like live service lives and dies, but like not just like the not just by content updates, but it's about communication updates, right? And I get like their strategy now is like talk about Tachyon, then Red Room, then Cosmic Cube or Patrol Mode. You know what I mean? Like it's very like 1 1 1 1 1. The unfortunate part is that like the game doesn't have a lot being updated to it as well, so you're kind of getting hit from both sides, right? You're getting hit from the side of like we want to know what's coming because the stuff in the game right now isn't good enough, and to that point, if OLTs were in the game and we had something to run, which was a high level activity with like cool gear, I mean, maybe there isn't so much focus on like the forwardness and instead of like focusing on the present.
well, yeah, I mean that's the thing with Avengers is that even since launch, it's been about okay, now what, now what, now
Yeah.
what, rather than being what's actually currently in the game. Because whenever something is added, it's kind
Mm,
of like okay, yeah, but this isn't good enough. How can we see the expansion of this now? Do you know what I mean? And
right.
it's the same, and it's the same as the animated nameplates. It's literally
Sure.
like okay, but these are shit. So how do we? Do you know what I mean? And it's like the
Yeah.
thing is, I don't mind them. Again, I wouldn't spend money on them, but they
Yeah.
were. I wasn't offended by them. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yep.
it was
Yep.
basically what I expected to.
Yep.
Um, but
Well,
I
and
think
that's it.
that
Yeah.
I think it's more just like people will see that and go, all right, now what? And
Yeah.
it goes with everything that's been added. So like when Clint came out, it's like realistically, if that had come out a month after K, people would have been like, you know what, that was all right,
Hmm. Yep.
But because it was freakishly short for how long it took to come out, people are like, is that it?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man, next thing, come on, hurry up. It's just it's something that I think Crystal are gonna face for a long time
Yeah.
until there's until maybe even Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
When the whole roadmap is finished and they've gotten to Panther, and obviously you've got Patrol that's done there, and you've got obviously all of the Wakanda stuff and Panther. That's probably a bit where CD can maybe go, okay, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
and just like have put their feet up for just a brief moment because I think people until then are going to be like, okay, that event's over next. And the
Right.
thing is, a lot of people aren't like us. They don't want to keep playing similar things, and that's kind of the problem with this being a looter as well. But that's like a
Mm.
core issue, is that people don't want to grind shit. People may play the OLTs once and be
Yeah.
done and be like, right, next. Do you know? It goes and it's the same with this event. Like that's why I said people might play it for a couple of days, do the new Tachyon, try and unlock that animated nameplate by doing that mission chain that they mentioned.
Mm.
Um, and and that's it, and be done with it, and then they'll just be like, okay, next event, and that's it. Then you're going to lose those casual players that play games like this.
Right. I wonder if
Uh,
there's like a conversation to be had about because you brought up the point of like the problem with this being a looter, and I wonder if there's like conversation there to be had about like does a superhero game mean that it can't be a looter? You know what I mean? Because a looter requires a little more time investment, a little more grinding, for example, right? Whether you look at a lot of these games, you look at them as grinding.
yeah,
Borderlands, Diablo, Destiny, Division, Anthem, whatever. Like any game that is built on a loot system is inherently a grinding game. So I wonder, like, does being a superhero game mean that you're at odds with being a looter? You know?
I think that they clash a little bit because when
Mm-hmm.
people think of like superheroes, they want to feel like superheroes. But the idea of a a loot game is that you start off
Weak.
and the loot you get
Yeah.
makes you better, and then eventually you might get a build where you're like, okay, I know I feel fucking powerful, but that has
Yeah.
to take a lot of time, right? You could be playing a game for hundreds and hundreds of hours, like, and I don't just mean Avengers, but just any game like that, and then
Mm-hmm.
feel like, okay, I'm strong enough now, and now I have 7 other characters that I need to do this with in order to get them
Yeah.
to all feel heroic, and I think that's why it clashes, and I think that this being, a gas games as a service and being like, oh, okay, we've got this event coming out and stuff like that. None of this screams superhero game to me, even though
Yeah.
it's Avengers. I think that that is kind of an issue, and a lot of people are going to look at this game, want to play as superheroes, and then because they're not bothered about the loot, because they're not bothered about anything like that, then it's going to be, like I said, play a couple of missions if you can, and then bow out because you don't want to grind for the new stuff. And that's kind
Sure.
of just that's what a superhero game brings as a casual audience to a game type that is usually you have to be very dedicated to it. But the problem is this game doesn't have a reason to get those people in it either.
Mm.
So you have the people that want they love looters and stuff like that who also love Marvel that could be really into this game, but they don't have an end game to grind. You have casual people who love Marvel who will play this game but don't want to grind, which is fair enough, so they won't play much often. And then there's us in the middle.
Right. Yeah. Let me ask you a question here, because obviously, um, we have Future Revolution coming up, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's that mobile open world RPG game. Um, and there's a lot there that looks really good, but I wonder if the same issue may be prevalent there as well, or maybe the mobile audience is different, because like if it's an open world RPG, to me that screams like you got to get powerful, like that there's like a process involved. And I wonder if there might be the similar reception to that, you know what I mean?
Thing is, I know people are going to be on their keyboards right now and screaming at us because Marvel Heroes,
Sure.
right? And that I totally understand, right? I never played Marvel Heroes, sadly. I can't
Mm,
tell you if I felt more powerful after a while, but it's clear that people love that game. So there's definitely, don't get me wrong, it obviously can work. I think
right.
that the only problem is in this game is that because there's skill trees, because there's gear and stuff like that, because this game preaches to a more casual audience while having such a niche genre attached to it,
Mm,
it's a very weird mix and it clashes. Whereas Marvel Heroes, it's fair to even look at the trailers and think like, okay, this Marvel Heroes is Diablo clone, right? Is that fair
yeah.
to say? Do you know?
Yeah.
So you know what you're getting into. You're
Hmm.
getting into like, oh, that's great, but this game obviously it advertised itself as something completely different. So now people are coming into this as the first time of any looter experience, and I was the same, minus Borderlands, but I didn't look at any stats. I just picked up gear that you know had a green
Right.
arrow on it, so it was better than the last.
True.
Um, but whereas this game, it's like this game actually taught me to look at builds a little bit more. So it's an entry level looter, but I
Mm,
think that can only carry you for so long. And I know Gear 2.0 is coming out, but you're doing events, you're doing all this, and without anything to grind, what's kind of the point, you know?
sure. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. It's really interesting because like, oh man, I think there's like so much you can even say to this, because like when you start talking about like the advertising and stuff, I remember the advertising being focused solely on the campaign, right? All the commercials and stuff, it
Uh
was like
huh.
campaign. So like, I could guarantee someone comes into it, buys the game, and then you beat the campaign within like what, 6-8 hours, I guess. And then after that, you're like you're falling into this multiplayer world, and you're like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, there's probably people who were in that situation. Because like,
Well, I mean, we've seen like, for example, like bigger streamers that have been sponsored to play, not have a single fucking clue when it comes to this like end game type. Well, not you know what I mean, like the
yeah,
initiative and stuff like that,
yeah,
and just kind of be completely lost and just go through the motions and stuff like that. And it's
yep,
kind of that's how it feels sometimes, and that's how it feels as someone who has played it often as well. It's like you just come in every day, you pick up your dailies, you go through the motions, and that's it. It doesn't feel very heroic. I just
No.
feel like I'm doing my daily. It's not a chore, but I feel like I'm doing my daily activities. Same as I would. I'd get showered every morning,
Yep.
and I'd also
Yep.
pick up the dailies on Avengers. It doesn't. I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel accomplished doing that.
Right. Yeah. No, and it's really interesting you draw the comparison to Marvel Heroes because like in exactly what you said, we some people may pick up this game and see like a third person action RPG Avengers game with like a cool campaign versus like when you picked up Marvel Heroes on PC, for example, most people may have been familiar with Diablo, for example. Like they had the idea of like this is Diablo but with Marvel Heroes. So because of that, there's like the trigger in your brain that says this is a grinding game versus like maybe when you pick up Avengers for the first time, you don't understand that it's a grinding game. So like I guess like yeah, there might be some conversation there because like there was a video that Rid had posted in my Discord and it basically went over like a bunch of the issues and it's a bunch of stuff that we've covered as well. But one of the points that he drives home is that and I forget the YouTuber, I'll put it in the description below, but basically the kind of point that he drives home is that it's the wrong genre for the wrong IP. And it makes me wonder like would this game be more successful doing like the Outriders approach where it's like this is like your main game. This is like your little bit of a end game. I don't know how expansive the Outriders end game is, and then maybe we get expansions instead of like this like drip feed of like content that has been like sometimes the tap is totally turned off.
Well, there's a couple of things to add to that. So when it comes to the marketing and stuff like that, obviously it was A Day, right? And A
Yeah,
Day is this cooperative, huge set piece, awesome experience where you get to play with pretty much all the Avengers minus Kamala because she's a babby at the time,
yep,
um, and and that was the marketing.
yep,
It was hardly a talk on gear. It was hardly a talk on this system. The marketing was this big action adventure set piece cinematic experience, but in video game form. And we got that in the campaign, in all fairness. But then
yep.
that's not that isn't where the cosmetics are coming from. That's not where you get more money after launch. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's the games as a service portion
Mm,
that is now the focus. So that was the issue with only advertising that is people bought this for the campaign, then traded it in when they were done,
right.
because there's a thing at the end, with loot and stuff like that, and everyone's just kind of like, because
Yeah.
that's not what it was advertised as. And then I think that as well as, obviously they wanted these updates and these events and everything to be obviously a lot more quicker. So, people
Mm.
could come back for more reasons. But I think that, for any other reason, it just hasn't turned out that way. I think that with mobile games, Marvel Heroes and stuff like that is
Well,
they
okay.
were
Well,
able.
just Marvel Heroes wasn't a mobile game. You gotta be very careful on that one. Future
No, I know.
Revolution.
I was saying
Oh, okay,
mobile
okay.
games and Marvel
Oh,
Heroes.
and Marvel Heroes. Okay, never mind. My bad. My bad. Didn't hear the and
Yeah,
part.
see,
Okay.
see, everyone, he started on me, right? It's been 2 weeks. Can't do
I
nothing
just gotta make sure,
right.
man. Hey, Marvel Hero fans are very like. Listen, Marvel Heroes is very close to my heart as well. So I got to make sure they're being well represented in this conversation. That's all.
Don't worry, everyone. Don't worry, everyone. It's fine. It's not like the X-Men, all right? Jeez.
No,
Anyway,
exactly. It's not good. Sorry. Anyways, you were saying.
yeah. So, as I was, no, but like with obviously with those two things, it's like they had options to just straight up, oh, MCU film, okay, event, comic thing, okay, event. Do you know what I mean? You can really basically spit out events and stuff
Hmm.
as much as you want because it's no disrespect to Marvel Heroes or mobile games, but it's easier to implement compared to a AAA, you know, high budget Avengers game to add these events in. There's a lot to it. Is that fair? Like to say that?
Well, I think it also goes back to the conversation we had a few weeks ago where you said like everything they do they try to tie into the story, versus like a mobile game or a different, depiction
Oh
of the
yeah,
Marvel
yeah.
universe where it's like they just throw shit in to throw shit in sometimes, right? Whereas like Crystal has like tied themselves to the notion that everything has to be furthering the story, which is also what could be, holding them down, you know?
Well, I mean, and it goes same with this event as well. Is like obviously their advertising for this was like aims tampering with time has led to like periodic tachyon anomalies. It's like
Right.
you don't have to make it like that. Like, yeah, glitz and glamour, great, because obviously that's what I said earlier. But I think that sometimes you can just slap an event on and be done with it for the sake of fan service. It doesn't
Yep.
always have to be fucking this kind of like deep rooted explanation for things. And I think that like it's got to get to a point where maybe when the story, like the actual main story, is maybe taking a bit of a breather, that you go like, okay, you know what, let's just fucking do shit for the sake of shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and
I mean,
it's
like, how
and
easy? I was just gonna say, how easy would it be? Now, obviously, I'm asking this rhetorically because I don't know. But how easy would it be to throw, like, to make some, like, 3 new gear sets for each hero, stick them in the game, and say, like, oh, here's like an event to go chase down like some new gear or whatever, tie it to like a certain mission type, and everyone goes and grinds those missions, and you could call it like you just call it like the red room gear or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the red room gear, and like, oh guys, like there's all this new gear in these missions, go grind it out. It's the red room gear, and it has different red room perks or whatever. You know what I mean?
well,
Like,
there is already red room set
no,
for
no, no,
widows. So just
but I'm being like, I'm taking that and like expanding it. It's like the idea is that, like, instead of tying all these things to like a story, an event could simply be brand new gear is being introduced, right? And call it whatever, not specifically red room gear, but call it, I don't know, give it a name, give it like a special like glitz and glamour name, and tie it to like drop zones, for example, and say like, all right guys, for the next 2 weeks, welcome to this event, and this gear is in drop zones, and for the next 2 weeks, if you want this gear, go to grind some drop zones. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not tying it to story, and that could be an event because like you're tying like brand new gear to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to further your idea, like not everything necessarily has to be narrative forward. You know?
I think that like as I appreciate the approach to it if stuff was coming out more frequently, but I
Mm,
think that when it takes its time, which we've had this conversation a million times, and
yeah.
whatever, but like I think that when people have waited so long, and it's like and people are thinking like, do you have to explain it in a story? Can we not just get it?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, and it's obviously, say people were waiting so long for the fact of players, same hero on a team, and they
Mm.
read our aim has been messing with tachyon anomalies. It's like, just all right, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
some people, for me, I'm fine with it, but some people they might think that's a little bit cringy. Just
Yeah.
sort of like, oh, can you not just fucking implement it as an event? Temporal assault, throw it in, done. You don't haven't
Yeah.
got to like just tell us we're getting nameplates and all that stuff. You don't have to make it so that AIM's got to do it all
Well,
the time. Shit happens in the Marvel universe. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's
what?
not always Thanos or something that's
Right.
doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to further that point, even Phil had said, like Red Room won't further their main narrative, but like there's gonna be things that splinter off of Red Room that will tie into like other pieces of the narrative, and it's like that's cool, but does it really
How much does
matter?
that
Like,
restrict? How much does that
yeah.
restrict then? Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And then
Yep.
that's the issue is like if you're doing a homage to the MCU, but these things can split off and be, you know, done down the road, it's like how much does that restrict you then from actually having fun with it? Like,
Yep.
because we know in the event from what they mentioned that a part of it's going to be beating up AIM bots to get chips from them, and then that harm room's going to be, hacked and stuff like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
like how aimbots, like they have to get involved. What has Yelena been fucking hired by Monica or something? Can we not have a break?
Well,
You know what I mean?
apparently,
Like,
like she's like hacking aimbots and like taking the chips out is like getting rid of the hack, and like like the hack is like to like fuck with Widow or whatever, right? So like, and then but like Phil had said, like there's gonna be stuff that carries on from this event narratively moving forward that will tie in down the line, and it's like in some ways it's like that's kind of cool, right? Like seeing all these like little pieces come together. But in some ways, you're like restricting your creative process because you got to make sure everything ties in neatly together. Like yeah, like not everything needs a story, like we have a
I
story,
think, yeah.
yeah.
I think it sounds really sort of weird to complain about something having a story, right? It
Mm,
because you think about it, you think about that complaint, and you think to yourself, That's stupid. Like, surely it's a good thing if it's good and also fits into a story. But
Sure.
the point is, and the point that, and if I was to sort of just guess where your head is with this as well, is
Yeah.
that we already have operations to tell a story. You
Yeah.
can just go wild with these events. You don't
Yeah.
have to make it so that it's a part of this canon. Are our heroes going to talk about seeing another version of themselves in a future DLC? Probably not.
Nope.
Like, Iron Man isn't going to talk about seeing Iron Knight. You know what I mean? It's just not going to do that. Hulk's
Yeah.
not going to talk about meeting Joe Fixit.
Yep.
So just why have you done it? Just
Yeah.
and there is no reasoning for it. Yeah, okay, you've slapped on, Aim's tampering with time has led to periodic tachyon anomalies. Maybe there'll be a little sentence before you jump into the and we're back tachyon mission. But besides that, there is no meaning behind it, and you've
Mm-hmm.
restricted your process because now you have to stick to the normal formula. Whereas
Yep.
if you made it kind of sound exciting and take it out of kind of the operations and stuff like that, you could have probably introduced even more stuff.
Sure.
Really?
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
And
like,
it's
I think it's like they're painting themselves in a corner that like maybe they don't necessarily have to paint themselves in, you know?
yeah, like, and again, this goes back to the conversation we had, before, where it was like, it doesn't, the initiative doesn't have to be story related. You can
Yep.
fan service that shit up like it's a
Mm-hmm.
mobile game, and then the operations and stuff can be where you fit the story in. It makes it more cohesive, it makes it more stuck together and well. And the problem is, people won't have to cherry pick it if there's stuff. So, say for example, we're in, like, I don't know, a couple of months down the road, and the Red Room Takeover event stuff gets brought up a couple of months down the road, but it's not as accurate as it is.
Mm.
Some people can nitpick that. You don't have to put yourself in that position where everything has to be to the dot and make all the sense. Because someone a year down the road will do like a story so far and say, well, hang on, that doesn't make sense from Temporal
Right.
Assault. How does that work into Cosmic Cube? How does that work in a Wasteland Patrol? Wait, but then Kate's deals. It's so much for them to fucking deal with when you could
Yeah.
just have a nice string of operations that fit all of this story in, so therefore the operations aren't too short. You could have told us all about this temporal assault in Clint's thing,
Yep.
and made that a bit longer. And
No,
then, obviously make these like just little cool side events just for
yep.
a bit of fun.
I mean, that's the thing is like they're making more work than they really need to. You know, like a lot of this is just like it doesn't have to be this way. You know, like
Exactly,
you
yeah.
could totally save yourself from a lot of this work because yeah, I mean, like it sounds like it's just more headache than it's worth. You know,
Oh,
but
exactly. And again, it sounds all like a weird fucking argument to be like, oh, has this got to have story involved? Because normally that would be a big, like, huzzah sort of moment. But
right.
if it's not going to be, I don't know, man. It's complicated.
If
It's
it's like
such a weird.
if it's not consequential to the overall narrative that you're trying to tell, is it really worth the time spent? You know, like, and I think that's
Yeah,
the argument. Yeah.
when these story points could have been used in Clint's operation and had a bit of fun with it,
Yeah.
why did you put it into an event when you could have just done this event anyway for a bit of funsies and put everything you wanted in it? Still, this could have been the same event, but put the intro to it in Clint's operation and stretch that out a bit longer. Then people would have moaned about the length. There's different ways to do these things, and I think that that is a CD problem anyway of just.
Do you want to know why I think they're doing it the way this is? I'm gonna get real. Like this is gonna be a kind of a bumming out kind of situation. Are you ready? You know how there's like story pieces that are in the game already that haven't gone anywhere. You know, like there's all these different things, with like certain characters or iconic missions and stuff like that that just seemingly hasn't gone anywhere.
What's it like Thor?
Sure, like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like so, like what if, for example, these events are basically like them trying to like test like tying up loose ends with characters. So like for example, like maybe you don't get like an Asgard expansion, you get like a Loki event. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's like certain ways they're trying to figure out like can events be like storytelling ways to get around like some of the bigger things that they've tried to do. Like, you know, like that's not to say we may never see an Asgard event, you know, but like maybe in their head, like, can we get away with like a Loki event where like there's like maybe 1 or 2 missions or something, like it's very small scale versus like an Asgard expansion, which would require months and months and months of work, you know.
I see the thing is when I hear the idea of Loki being in the game and Asgard, that screams raid to me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Raid potential, an event or an expansion that leads up to a raid similar to Black Panther.
Right.
Um, but like you said, that's a very possible thing. I think that again, it's very possible, but it's just because here's the thing as well is
Mm.
like hold on, right? I really want to make sure that everything is perfect when I find this
Okay.
because I have a theory, right? And
Uh,
it's gonna fucking blow socks off.
okay.
And if I can sort of get a quote for this, I'll
Do you want to
be
do you
a
want to start
genius.
do you want to start talking about the theory while you try to find a quote, or do you want to
No, because
do
then I'll look stupid.
okay. All right. I mean, like, yeah,
Here it
it's one
is.
of
Here it is. Here it is.
oh,
Here it is. Here it is.
okay.
All right. So Spider-Man.
Yes.
Okay. The
Yes.
event is comprised of a series of unique challenges for the hero to take on.
Mm-hmm.
The event.
The
So,
event. Yes.
are you right by it being like for stuff like this that they don't want to be grander scale? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man being for an obvious reason because they don't want to upset too many people. They
Right.
make they make these things events like
Right.
the sensational celebration event because that's the name of like what they call this tab here.
Right.
And obviously for Spider-Man, it will be like an event of Spider-Man, a little homage to him. Maybe some heroes get Spider-Man themed gear like Kamala, not
Mm-hmm.
gear, cosmetics and that.
Sure.
Um, and it could be the same for Loki. You definitely could be onto something. I do think people would be very upset with that though.
That's why I was very didn't want to say it, but like to me, like some of these like narrative loose ends, they may just use events for them instead of like even like an operation, like like operations. What we've seen so far are tied to characters. Expansions are tied to locations. So like, so for me, Loki wouldn't be an operation. Could Asgard be an expansion? Well, I mean, unless there's like another character coming alongside it. I mean, I don't know. So like for me, like an event makes sense based off like the 3 things we've seen. You know and
Yeah,
that's why people may be a little upset if that's the route they go, because like it just seems like if they figured out a way for them that makes sense to tie like narrative focus with like these smaller scale events, to them it's probably like, oh, the possibilities are now endless, but for us it's like, wait a second, because like if we don't get to see, if we tie this Loki storyline up and we never step foot on Asgard, people are going to be very upset, like super upset, right? And like it's a very delicate line to walk, and I'm very scared of how they're going to do it.
I, here's the thing as well, like just going into that Loki thing as well, is that see, and again, this is my point of bringing like if all events, everything is connected to story, then you're going to get so many loose plot holes. Like for
Yep.
example, when Thor realizes it's Loki, why doesn't he go to the Avengers and go, "Oh, Loki's out and about," like
Yep.
we should probably go and sort him out. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yep. Yep.
he's pretty fucking, he's pretty bad guy. He's probably gonna sort him out, and it's like no,
Yeah.
just let him wandered off as Thor. You know what I mean? Like, and it's one of them kind of things where it's not been brought up anymore. And then maybe when Loki does finally pop up, it'll be like, oh shit, guys, I forgot to tell you,
Yeah.
it's Loki's out and about, and it's like really okay,
Yeah. It,
and
it makes me wonder, like, narratively, if they should have focused on like this stuff first instead of like moving on to like this time travel Tachyon, now space invasion. You know what I mean? Like, does it make more sense narratively to like figure out a lot of this stuff, right? Loki being one of these things, and then once Loki's kind of settled, you've done the Asgard thing, then start looking at a lot of this other stuff. Like, imagine instead of like this Kree invasion being the main focus, imagine it's like War of the Realms, right? For anyone who's familiar with like the latest comic event, I say latest, but it was like a recent comic event. Um, Instead of like doing the Kree invasion, maybe it's the War of the Realms, right? So like you're building up to going to like to Asgard to fight the 9 realms or whatever. Like there's other stuff they could have done that maybe ties up a lot of those loose ends instead of like leaving them for later, like a to be determined kind of situation.
yeah, for sure. I mean, there's there's a lot of sort of they're just ways to go
Mm-hmm.
about it really, and it's just
Yep.
I just hope that they kind of see in the end that because what it feels like to me is
Mm.
that the team in Avengers aren't relaxing. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
They're not like, and obviously that makes sense. But I mean in that like a metaphorical sense of like
Mm.
everything's got to be in this tight little ball,
Yeah.
right? As long as AIM are around at the moment, they have to be involved in all of this shit. And as long as this,
Right.
like, as long as like they have this story to tell, that has to be involved in it somehow. And you end up doing this really annoying little web effect. Whereas if you just want to have creative freedom, you can't have it because you have to introduce a story in some way, shape, or form. Whereas if
Yeah.
you didn't, you could pull events out of your ass. Do you know what I mean? You didn't have to like make it so that this had to be connected to anything. It could have just been like, event,
Mm.
and then glitz and glamour, but in a different way, a bit of fan service and that. This doesn't. You had a chance to make this very fan servicey, see, but
Right.
and you weren't able to, and it's kind of the same with Red Room takeovers, like MCU skins, okay, but then when we get to doing the actual gameplay side of the event, is that going to be a bit of a bummer because it's too
Right.
connected to the main narrative and not really going to go anywhere because as Phil said it's not a part of the main narrative, but you can bet your ass there's going to be mentions of it and sprinkles of it, and it's not
Mm.
going to really move along past this event. So it's kind of like you've trapped yourselves again.
Yeah. And it's funny because like I know right now people who really want to see the Inhuman storyline go forward are like punching the air right now because like that storyline's done. Like they've ditched that. Like Inhumans are made and that's it. Like who knows what's going on with Inhumans, right? Like and I know there's a lot of people who wanted to follow up with that. Like what's going on with the Inhumans? What's going on with the royal family, for example? Like what is like you start this thing and then all of a sudden it's like Inhumans, yeah, sorry, we're gonna go talk about time travel. Oh, sorry, time travel? Oh, we meant a space invasion, and it's like you have like these powered humans now, like running around. Like where is this going? Like what's going on with this? And it's just like, there's a lot there that
We had Dante for like 5 seconds in a cutscene. We had Cerise, bless her, who's been near a set of stairs and not been able to get down it because they just haven't moved her yet. You've got Theo that hasn't really done anything besides appear in a daily villain sector
mm,
since and it's just kind of like you've got all this side cast that you could make us care about and we don't. We just want to
yeah.
get to the next big set events and stuff like and that's the thing. And I think people and just to be a little bit negative, the stories that they've had to tell,
Mm,
I mean, I'm excited for the future of it, but I wasn't really excited about the stuff they're telling at the moment,
for
to be
sure.
honest.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just a genuine, that's just a
Do
personal
you
opinion. Like, I never went through Clint's story, and I was absolutely fucking super invested. I wanted to pay attention because being a content creator on a game and also a Marvel fan, I just wanted to, I want to
sure.
follow it along. But it wasn't anything I thought at any point like, oh no, oh shit, I can't believe it. That I had no emotions playing it. It was just kind of like, or watching it because obviously I had to watch it first before I could play it.
Sure.
Thanks, charity. But um,
Do
yeah,
you
just it,
sorry, I was just
yeah.
gonna ask, do you feel that's due down to the execution of it? Like, what do you think like played a factor into like you not enjoying the story? Like, is it execution? Is it kind of what's involved, like the Inhuman storyline and now kind of time travel stuff, or do you think it's just a matter of like it's just not for you?
I don't know. I'm quite a like without even knowing it. I'm actually quite a picky bitch.
Okay.
Like so it comes to like war tables. I've not been into any character war tables. So wasn't into Kate's. I wasn't into Clint's.
Mm-hmm.
It just did nothing for me. The combat showcases did though. So like
Yes.
maybe it's like at the minute. So for example, obviously when I come out of Future Imperfect, I was like, I don't really care about Old Man Clint
Mm-hmm.
because he just appeared out of nowhere. Really, do you know what I mean? Like it's just like
Yep.
okay, um, I wasn't bothered about Maestro because there's a very, very obvious emotional plot they could have gone with there, and they
Yep.
didn't.
Yep.
And So therefore I was like, okay, I don't care about Maestro then,
Right.
because you didn't make me care. Do you
Didn't
know what
make
I
me
mean?
care.
And like,
Yep. Yep.
and it's the same with like, so like Kate Bishop for some reason was a dickhole in that DLC. Didn't remember her saying a singular, like, because I get it, I know the relationship in the comics, no one attack me, but there wasn't a single moment in that DLC where Kate wasn't being a sarky asshole.
Right.
And it's like I miss how she was in her own. You know what I mean? She wasn't a total dickwad all the time.
Right.
Like she actually was deep. I actually enjoyed Kate a lot in her own thing, but as soon as Clint came along, she was like, "You're old and smell," so all the time, and I was just
Yeah.
like, "Love, come on, man, fucking hell! Like we get it. You hate him and don't. Oh, so cute, little sister. Whatever. It's just, and it's again, I stopped caring about her because of that writing, and Clint was
Right.
all right, but then it's like I cared more for, I liked Clint, I suppose.
Mm.
That was it. That was it. That's my
Yeah.
review of the story because it didn't really do anything, did it? Story
Right.
wise, it didn't really change a lot. All it did was make me wonder why they didn't go certain directions with it. And oh
Yep.
look, Nick Fury over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's a chance for you to give a fuck. The guy that you've been searching for is here, trapped behind this wall. Over.
Over. Yeah.
Like, and it's like, okay, okay, sure, all right. And that sounds really negative, but the reason why I was so bothered, and this is why, like, I say, like, oh, you could have taken the intro to uh, Temporal Assault and thrown that in there. Story can be in the operations because it felt so short. And right when I was actually thinking to myself, okay, there's potential here, maybe they're going to do something with Maestro. No, maybe they're going to do something with, no, it's over. Shut up.
Yeah.
And like the best moments that come from the story are in the villain sectors. Like they mentioned that when Maddie Chow wants a blood sample,
Mm-hmm.
Clint mentions how he's been sending it all to Bruce with no reply.
Right.
Right. That tells me Bruce is shitting himself. I was like, great, I wanted to see that. Imagine how
Yeah.
awesome that would have been to
Yeah.
have that moment where Bruce is terrified because remember he let himself go once and let Hulk take over. So that's what happens. That's like the worst case scenario if that were to happen in the future. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So like there could be untrust between those two. You could do it. Look, literally, I'm so invested in Hulk's story, and I don't think that's what they wanted in this. I think they wanted us to care about Clint in his own story, obviously. But
Yeah.
all it made me think was, "Fuck, how's Bruce?" So, like,
Yeah.
give me an operation just on Bruce. Reacting to the news, dealing with Hulk, and those two having a bit of a moment together. I'd take a few events of that.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if like there like it makes me wonder if some people are right, if this game shouldn't have been a games as a service. Like walk with me down this road here. Imagine you
Okay.
get imagine you get um your main game start to finish, and right at the end of it you get the teaser for the Tachyon. Now say for example you get the DLC, which is like a Tachyon Anomaly expansion, right? In that you get a Kate story, you get a Clint story, and because of that you're able to flesh that out a little bit more, right? So maybe within this whole, $30 DLC, you get some more Bruce stuff, you get some more Clint stuff, you get your Kate stuff, obviously. It just makes me wonder if then you could do like an Asgard expansion, another $30, and because of that, like I wonder if like there's I don't know, like I'm starting to wonder if there's maybe some smoke there that maybe, drip feeding content. I don't necessarily know if walking down this road would be the best one for a player base, but
To
maybe
to
but
be
maybe if this was just a pure single player game. This wasn't a multiplayer game. This was a
Yeah,
pure single player game. If maybe then that would be the way to go. I still believe that if you're doing a multiplayer game in terms of locking people out of content, it's not the best way to do it. But if this was a single player game, then does that open up the possibility of doing more expansions and having more content, kind of bungled around? Because at that point, you're not having to rush out content on a timeline to keep your players engaged. You can bring out an expansion 6 months later, 7 months later, and because it's a single player game, people are just gonna be happy to come back to it, you know?
for sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be just completely like honest and just a
Mm.
bit brutal with it. Like, just the kind of boneheaded way to say this is kind of like, if you're going to do everything that involves story,
Mm.
do it well or don't
Yes.
do it at all. Like,
Yes. I agree.
and that's the thing. If your whole thing is everything has to be narrative connected, so far the shit that is 100% narrative connected has been air. Do you know,
Yeah.
it has been air since the campaign, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm not excited to get events that have to be stuck to your story because it's not. I'm at the minute. You haven't grasped me yet. You haven't.
Sure.
There's so many avenues you could have taken down to get me invested,
Mm-hmm.
because in a story game the thing that we want to do is feel, we
Yeah.
want to
Of
be
course.
connected to the heroes, and the campaign did that. I was very connected to the Avengers, very connected to Kamala.
Yep.
Obviously there's criticisms to be had, but I think it was a really, really good story,
Yeah.
and it did a lot, and I think that level of quality could have been carried on through Kate's and Clint's, but it just kind of wasn't. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Kate's was good. Kate's was decent. I
Yep.
mean, missions aside and variety aside, it was actually all right. It was pretty good.
Yep.
I
Yep.
liked Kate a lot after that. And then Clint's was just kind of like,
Yep.
all right,
No, I hear you. I
okay.
hear you. It
And it
definitely.
sucked the air out. And then with them saying like everything's got to be connected to story, and then Temporal Soul being like, Aim's fucking about with time and that, and this is why
Yeah.
this is happening. It's like, all right, okay, yeah, all right, we go, all right, fine, we'll carry this on. It was a
Yeah.
story in a small event that you could have fit into a bit more content for Clint. Yeah, sure, all right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, yeah, I think there's a lot there to kind of peel back, but I mean, like at the end of the day, like hopefully they kind of get the understanding that like you could do cool events, fuck a story, just keep your stories to your operations. Like um just give us fun things to do. Like I said, even if it's a small event and the whole event is focused around like 3 new gear sets for like your heroes or whatever, that's fine. Stick them to a mission. Say like go. There you go. Like like give people something new to grind for that doesn't necessarily have to be story related, and people will probably be happy with that.
Exactly. The game doesn't have to completely die because you can't think of a story reason as to why you want an event to happen.
Yeah,
Like, say
exactly.
say all the writers for some reason are having a writer's block, right? You don't have to go right, switch the game off. No one can explain why we want to do
Yeah.
this event. That's it, it's over. Do you know what I mean? And it just kind of that's the reason. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's stuff on the roadmap that I'm excited. I mean, excited for all of it, but I mean like
Mm-hmm.
story stuff that are clearly story related, like the Cosmic Cube thing, we're excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for things. I'm excited for things that are clearly supposed to be additions to the story, but things that are forced additions because they have to be. It's like it's not necessary. Wasteland
Right.
Patrol is probably going to have a story to it when it doesn't need to. The Wasteland is clearly massive, right? It's clear that we have to keep going there to get intel on the Kree. That's it.
Yeah.
That is it. Don't tell me, to time fuck about. Oh, look, we get bosses from different times. If you're going to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give me shit. Do you know what I mean? Don't
No,
tell
I
me
agree.
that, like, and it's essentially the same thing of having a burger as your main course and the slice of cheese you were supposed to get as your dessert.
Okay.
Did you get me? Like, there we go.
Yeah,
That's how
no,
I'd
yeah,
that's
yeah.
how I'd
I
explain
get
it.
you. I get you. No, I 100% get you. Yeah. I mean, hopefully moving forward when we get like the last half of the year kind of plans, maybe they'll kind of like change focus a little bit, and just say like here's like some fun events, no story, and here's like your story content. Cuz I mean like there's still content to be had this year, right? Like there's still stuff that's coming at the back half of the year. So, we'll have to wait and see um how they kind of shape that, and maybe, like I said, like this roadmap right here was not the roadmap they envisioned, 7 months ago, 8 months ago, 6 months ago, right? Um, so while they're looking at like the future, like I would imagine like whatever they give out for the back half of the year isn't what they had thought 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago. You know what I mean? So like ideally, whatever we get for that back half of the year is shaped by the feedback that they're getting, and because of that, maybe there's operations that are tied more to story, and then there's fun little things that aren't necessarily tied to story as well, without having to worry about trying to, weave the tangled webs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I get you. Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
All right, so that's our breakdown of Tachyon Anomaly. There it is, guys. That's everything you need to know about Tachyon Anomaly in a nutshell, right there. So one of the
Nice
main
and
things,
snappy.
yeah, you know what? We really try to make sure we respect the time of people, and that was the best we could do with that topic. Um,
We are the mega hives of podcasts.
oh God, people are gonna start tuning out. Um, I wanna hear your thoughts. What do you think we're gonna see for so MCU suits? They said suits with an S, right? Was I hearing that correctly?
I think you were, yeah.
So what do you think? So it's either next week or the week after. Andy did say he wants it before the end of the month for us to see the MCU suits. So let's. I already lost the bet with Miller. If I'm right, maybe Miller's gonna have to pay me back my $20. So if he's listening, Miller, you're on the hot seat here, buddy. So what do you think they're gonna show? Like just ballpark it. Like let's just go under the assumption they only show one. Let's be safe about this. They
Okay.
only show one suit next week or the week after. That's coming with Red Room Takeover. What is it?
White Widow.
Yep. Okay. We're under the same one. It's got to be White Widow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. That's, yeah.
Okay. Perfect. We're good. Just making sure. Just because I know there's conversation around like, nanotech Iron Man or whatever. But if they're only doing one, it's got to be the Widow one. Just because
Yeah,
it's around
100%.
Black Widow. Okay, cool. All right, just making sure, man. Just making sure.
No, no, no,
Uh,
no, no, because I'm just no, no, no. Because what made me sort of instantly click is because as soon as you said it's the one coming with Red Room Takeover,
yeah,
it's like the Black Widow fucking event. It's like, well,
yeah.
come on,
Well,
man. It's like,
I know, because there are people out there who like now that Phil had said it's only one, before like imaginations were running wild. Does everyone get like two or three? My opinion of this is that you're not going to see MCU skins that often because they're going to want to make sure that like when they release them, they're like the highest quality things in the game right now. You know,
oh yeah, that's it.
there's going to be
It
no
ain't gonna be
conversation around
quantity
like
over quality there.
yeah, like this ain't gonna be like a reuse asset conversation. It's gonna be like you guys are taking way too fucking long putting these suits out. That's where I see that conversation going.
For sure, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's without a doubt. Speaking of skins,
Yes.
actually,
Yeah. You want to
those
talk about the ones that came out this week?
m- 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 how do I say it? Monochromatic? Is that
I
it?
thought it was monochronic.
Monochromatic? Yeah. Well, you know what? The neon ones.
The neon ones sound pretty good to me. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So there we go. So those ones. I mentioned them a little bit earlier, but I never specified exactly what they are. So basically, Andy showed with his cool little dev kit, two, well, a new set of skins, new team skins, similar to
Mm-hmm.
the idea that aerospace was, and it's this really cool glow in the dark like neon skins. And he started off with Iron Man. I
Yep.
mean, look, people. Here's the thing. People are looking deeply. I don't know if people have already found it, but people are looking deeply at what skin that was reused for. Let me be the first to tell you, I don't give a fuck. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not. It's so different, and it's obviously everything's blacked out, and it's just the outline that they could have used the normal Iron Man, like legit in the game, iconic, and it would have been different enough. And especially if it's animated in a way of like there's a function to it, so it actually does glow in
Hmm.
the dark, then that's worth money, right? That's a function to the costume, like
Sure.
that's
I guess
and
depending on who
that's
you ask, it's gonna be like how much money are they gonna be?
oh, if it's legendary, nah.
Fair.
Like
Okay. Fair.
if it's epic, that's very very cool. Like
Yep.
I'm pretty happy with that. If it's
Sure.
legendary, nah. Like for a full he's joking.
Yeah.
Like, but and especially like because they showed the Hulk one next, and where before and. My friends will be my witness for this. When they showed the Iron Man one, I was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" And
Mm-hmm.
then when they showed before they showed the Hulk one, I was like, "If they show Hulk and he's a massive green glow stick,
That'd
I'm
be
gonna lose
sick.
my
Yeah, that'd be
fucking
cool.
mind."
Yep.
Like if Hulk's skin was glowing,
Yep.
like, and I would be like, that is going to be nuts. And when it turned out to just be the pants, I literally just went, oh, like I
Yeah.
was pretty bummed out by that because because the idea that they showed with Iron Man was the entire body's going to be covered, right?
Yep. Yep.
So the assumption was Hulk's just going to be this big green gamma glow stick, and it turned out to just be his pants. And that's gutting, but that's also kind of like what to be expected. Hulk's always going to be the worst.
Yeah.
He just is, just because of he's not exactly a
Hmm.
fashionista. So but I think the scary thing is Iron Man again being the top guy in this thing. Like
Yeah.
Thor's got his chest plates; they can glow some sort of cool neon color, and like you can really go ham with all the costumes here. But I feel like Iron Man's may end up being the best
Best
one,
one.
a-
Yeah.
and that's kind of like a bit of a shame. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that they all, minus Hulk, pretty much are like fucking fantastic, because I didn't buy all the aerospace skins. I just
No.
bought the ones that I thought looked all right. And because I didn't have Ultimate Iron Man, I thought I'll just buy his aerospace recolor.
Sure. Yeah,
And
I
that, and
mean
that
like
was it.
yeah, I mean like hopefully they do look good. I mean like the Iron Man one did look super sick. So like it was one of those where like I looked at it and like my reaction on stream was kind of like and then I started seeing some more and I heard like it glows in the dark and I was like, okay, this is pretty sick. But like like yeah, like the Hulk one like took the hype away because like you get like something so cool and then you get something so trash and then it's like where do the rest of them fall, right? Like is Thor's gonna be just his chest plate? Is Cap's gonna be just his like like where like how far is the creativity going with these? Like um
Well, I think
yeah,
that was more of like how they communicated it. Because realistically, Hulk next to the Iron Man one is trash. If they had shown
yes,
Hulk first, people would have been like, okay,
yes, yes,
all right, fair. And then you would have seen Iron Man, you would have gone, oh shit. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Rather than it be like, oh, that's sick. And then just been a bit like, ah, okay, right,
yeah,
nice. And like a friend of mine made a point of like tampering expectations. So like
mm,
maybe don't expect all of them to be head to toe. But I was like, yeah, but then where does the advertising come in at that?
yeah.
Where does it get to a point where like, yeah, okay, you don't want to like tell people that you don't want to overhype people, but at the same time, you don't want to bum people out, because how are you going to sell anything?
Do you think it would have been better to do um like a pre-recorded video of these like
I would have just
like a
shown them all, to be honest, mate.
true, true. I mean, like I was even thinking like if Andy didn't want to like switch around or worry about like showing something on that build, they could have like pre-recorded like a video doing like some dramatic dynamic shots of them or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like that could have been cool to do as
show
well.
them in the dark.
Yeah, yeah. Show that
Yeah,
functionality with them. Yeah, 100%.
that's it. Like you should have just said screw it, show them all. Be like, these are coming to Avengers over the next coming weeks. That gives someone a reason to tune in every Thursday if they don't fancy the event, and that they're
Hmm.
just a bit of a collector. Because I have some friends who just like are whales for the game, right? And
Yeah,
they're like, they haven't spoken about the event a lot, but they're just like spending their money. So
yeah,
that's a good way to attract that audience who maybe aren't too fussed about Tachyon anomalies, but will be more than happy to shell out a bunch of money for this set.
yeah. And hopefully they look good. I mean, I know like I'm gonna feel so bad for Thor mains if his looks trash, because like they're dying for skins, man. Like Thor mains are dying for skins. They're dying for something to make their character look cool. And like this could have like now obviously like there's gonna be people who want like those comic skins, granted. But like for anyone who's just looking for like a very cool new Thor skin, like this has the potential to be that skin for them. But if it turns out to be shit, like it's gonna suck, like it's gonna
Well,
suck.
the fucking like, what was it? The aerospace one was just like, there was no difference to that, and is I don't know what it's called, but it's been used a good handful of times. Like, and I'm wondering why it's Thor that seems to get the least love. In like Hulk, who's got so little clothing options, gets more love in the marketplace than Thor.
Because here's the thing, I guarantee a lot of the outfits that people want for Thor are a lot harder for them to work on in the time frame that they like. Think about it this way: an Iron Man suit is pretty modular in the sense that like what they have to work with, they could like throw it together, maybe change a few things very quickly. And I say quickly relative terms, but like the amount of effort that goes in to create like a new Iron Man suit is different than the work that it would probably take to go in to create like a new Thor suit, because a lot of the Thor ones probably requires some new asset creation, some you know what I mean. Like there's probably just
Yeah.
more work involved versus like Iron Man, like changing a few things here or there, swapping a few armor pieces, sending it off to Marvel. Marvel approves it. There you go. You know what I mean? Like, um, I would only assume that just based off just what we've seen because like Iron Man just gets a lot, but you look at the way Iron Man suits are kind of made and how they're all kind of moved around. It's like okay, that makes a little bit more sense. You know?
Yeah, I think that I just I'm just looking forward to seeing the rest of them. And again,
Sure.
like once you've shown two, people were like, well, now show Caps and now
Yep.
show because people are now scared, right? That people like is Iron Man the highest and Hulk's the lowest, like, or are we
Yeah.
all gonna get absolutely quality full body things? But for Hulk, you just and this is a really random piece of feedback that I sort of
Mm.
I had when I was watching the streamers. I was like, the thing is with Hulk skins, and this is why I like the Stark Tech one so much, is all it is just a pair of pants, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. So why don't you give him something on his top half? Why don't you put
Mm.
why didn't you put the gloves on from the Starter Tech and highlight them in neon, or give him
True.
like boxing wrap, around his hands or something? Just make him look less naked at the top. Because I had when I used to wrestle, that when we used to do promo pictures and stuff, obviously they're not always taking a photo of your full body, so feedback I got was like always wear wrist tape or something like
Mm.
that to break off the nakedness, because or else you're just going to look like a male porn star,
True.
right? And I was like, I get that. And the thing that's it with Hulk is it doesn't take a lot to just give him something on his top half. I think what would have been better for Hulk, even though they used it in aerospace, but like man, whatever, is give that the wrestler singlet the neon look instead.
Mm.
So at least then you've got something there to kind of use, right, and more full kind of thing. Because now
True.
it's just black pants with green and purple lining in it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, definitely what you said about breaking it up could have been good. Like even doing the wrestling one. I know they just did a recolor of the wrestling one, but do the wrestling one. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like and just or even like give him make a neon just Joe. All right,
Mm. Oh, that's an interesting
could have done,
idea. Yeah. I mean, that could have
could have
worked
done
too.
that.
I know people are kind of sick of that because it never rotated out of the cosmetic vendor, but like,
That's why I
the,
said it.
yeah, I mean, like, there's more there to kind of have fun with and play with, and or Gladiator, do Gladiator
Yeah, yeah, could have
with
done
the
that.
neon. That could have been cool too. That could have been actually neon. Now I say it. Now I want it. You know what I mean? Because like, that could have looked really dope. That could have looked really dope actually. Fuck.
Yeah, only ever got So you obviously had the Grey Hulk one,
The
then you
green
had the
one.
normal Gladiator one, and then you had the weird yellowy version where he was like dirty, and that was it, right?
I don't remember seeing that one, but I know in the green one there was like a one with purple and one with orange. I don't know the dirty one. I don't remember seeing
I think the
that.
orange one was the one where he was a little bit dirty.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, yeah. We'll say that
Anyway,
then.
yeah. So like, I mean, they could have worked it. And the thing is that I'm a little bit afraid of is that like I think Caps, if they do a full body thing, will look sick. I do,
Yes.
and I think the same thing with all of them, really.
Well,
But again, do we
mm,
know if that's going to be the case? And will it not look weird for someone like Cap to have this shield that isn't
mm-hmm.
neon, but his whole
Yep.
body being all weird? It's oh fuck,
Yeah, that's the
oh
more interesting one.
god,
That's the one to look for. Like, Mjolnir you can get away with obviously, but like if they don't recolor the shield neon, well even then you get into this whole conversation around the shield then, right? So now, and I had this conversation during the week, and it was just like, if you recolor the shield for this one, do you retroactively change the shield around for different suits? Do you give the option now? Like, what do you do with the shield now that there's all these skins with a different shield when you've just shown that you now have the ability to recolor the shield? Now you've opened up this can of worms, and what do you do there?
yeah,
Yep,
oh,
yep. And that'll be the
like
interesting
just
one. It's either you're gonna get
just
a
think
really ugly skin or you're gonna open a can of worms.
Exactly. And then to think about it, like if they did manage to neon up the weapons, imagine having neon arrows shooting
Mm-hmm.
out from the bag of tricks. How sick would that? Oh, they fucked themselves
They
over
yeah.
here.
Yep.
Like by
Yep.
making something good, they've also
Yep.
fucked themselves over. But also by
Mm-hmm.
making something bad, they would have done that anyway. But like, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel for them because now it's like now I'm going to be disappointed if the shield isn't coloured because I
Yep.
hadn't thought about it before until we were just talking, dick.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
like, but now if this big fucking shield is normal and all of Cap is like glowing neon American colors, it's going to
Yep.
be so disappointed.
Yep. Yeah, they've really kind of painted themselves in a corner with this one. Probably unknowingly, right? They probably just like if they did recolor the shield, they were like, "Oh, this looks sick," without thinking like now there's expectations to go back and redo some of the shields, you know? Like so now you're walking into a territory where it's like, yikes. Yeah, I mean, good luck. Cuz I mean like if Cap has the neon shield, that's an instant buy. If he doesn't have the neon shield, I got to really think about it. But if he does have the neon shield, it's like, where's the stealth shield? Can you do the World War II shield now? Like now, can you do the one where the all new Captain America, where it's not the circular shield, it's like the two pieces come apart. Like now they've really fucked themselves. So like now
Exactly, yeah.
it's gonna
Where's
be really
Stormbreaker sort of thing?
right. Like if you recolor Mjolnir, can now that mean does that mean like you can do Stormbreaker? Like what does that mean for different weapons for Thor, for example? You know, like yeah, now
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, yep. Good luck to them because either way, you get a really ugly skin, you get a can of worms. So, um, thank God I'm not working for them. You know, because understandably, people are gonna be upset either way. You know, so good God, you know, or maybe no one even thought of that, and now they're gonna listen to this and they're gonna be like, "You fucking guys put that idea in my head." So we're sorry, or at least I am.
Well, what do you mean we? You're the one who put it in my head.
Oh, so I'm sorry because this is gonna spread now from me. So
Yeah,
yeah, you know,
dick.
causing issues already, dude. First episode back after a mid-season break, and this is what happens. I'm causing issues.
Don't call it a mid-season break.
It
You
was like
just
a mid,
abandoned me.
it was a mid-season break, dude. I had to,
Left me to fight for scraps.
well, I had to go learn how to save lives. All right, so whatever.
Where am I supposed to get my subs from?
That's a good question, dude. That's a great question. Well, I'm sure some will come in today. Maybe if they have taste, they won't. But you know, with that being said, is there anything else, man, that you want to talk about? Obviously, there's like they now say they're going to change up the weekly blog. I mean, we've been saying this. I think this is I've been saying it for a while, but since you've joined, we've been saying this. Like the weekly blogs needed a refresh, so now they said they're going to do the refresh. So they've actually given me more content, so thank you. Um,
Well, but I also said this, right?
hmm.
So, what's the point in having the streams then? What's the point in having the weekly blog? If you're gonna be like if you're gonna talk about things on the weekly blog, why have the dev stream then? Unless it's play with the devs, or you know what? Or is
Mm.
it just like an ask me anything sort of thing? But then you're not gonna be able to answer everything, can you? All you can do is maybe like specify little bits and bobs. So then, what's the point unless it's play with the devs? Why don't you put it all in one place rather than people having to like stretch out? They go to different places for this information. There's people that will look at the weekly blog and not look at the dev stream. There's people that will do like vice versa. So what's the point? You know what I mean? Put it all in one place and make sure that at least a bunch of people see everything, then split it apart and make sure that there's a few people that see nothing.
Yeah, it's tough
Right?
because
No, that you know
I
what I
no,
mean?
I agree with you because like I what I wrote down for my notes is that the weekly blog will have something cool from now on. Cool is in quotes, obviously. You know, they want to give in progress updates on different teams and what they're working on. They're trying to show like and through this they said that they're trying to show they're committed to the roadmap, bringing things out on time, yada yada yada. And then they want to do dev spotlights and they want to do community spotlights. And in some ways, it's like they are kind of like cannibalizing their own audience a little bit there because like a lot of what they're showing on the weekly blog, they may talk about more in depth on a dev stream, or maybe they won't. Like, no, I definitely see what you're saying. It's going to be coming down to like this is part of those growing pains we talked about, right? Where like there's a little bit of growing pains when it comes to like going from like a single player game to kind of like this ongoing weekly kind of update schedule that they have to give their audience. Like this is all part of that growing pains because they would never have to do this with Tomb Raider, right? Tomb Raider was like, Oh, the game launch? Okay, cool. We'll see you guys in like the month before DLC releases to ramp up that marketing, like um versus now they're trying to figure out like how to keep people engaged with both the stream and the weekly blogs and give them like kind of like enough information that they feel satisfied every week. And like this is them trying to figure that out. I mean, like I agree that like if you want to put stuff in the weekly blog, that's cool, but it almost feels like they feel like there's an expectation now to come on stream every week. Granted, if the weekly blog had a comprehensive list of everything going on, you like you gave a section to Phil, so Phil could like come out and write whatever he wants every week. Like maybe you take that hour that Phil has on Friday, maybe you try to figure out like can he write something on a Wednesday or a Thursday morning, probably a Wednesday just to be safe, and then you throw that shit in there, and then there you go. And then maybe you don't have to do a weekly stream. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's going to come down to the execution of it, right? Because like maybe this is more so dedicated to like those engineers or animators or artists or narrative. Like actually, we've been seeing a lot of narrative people get a spotlight. So maybe this is more so for the teams that actually don't get a spotlight in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for the dev sort of spotlight and stuff like that. But I think when it comes to putting news and stuff in there, it's like I don't know. I prefer it in dev stream sense because they can ramp it up and make it seem more exciting over text.
Sure.
But like at the same time, we've been begging for the weekly blog to
Blog
be a
dev
bit more.
something. Yeah.
But now that the dev streams have actually got information in them, those conversations have been used less. I feel
Sure.
because
Yeah.
we have a place for information finally.
Yep.
As that's what we thought the weekly. So it's like you fixed the problem and then fixed it again.
So,
You know what
so
I
would
mean?
you
Like,
so would you rather the weekly blogs stay within the game? So weekly blogs are dedicated to the in-game updates. The dev streams are dedicated to the Crystal Dynamics updates, and then maybe instead of tying like a dev spotlight to the weekly blog, you just do a blog dedicated to that group of developers. And same thing with the community spotlight then, right? So like, instead of like next week, for example, you have your weekly blog and then you have a dev spotlight and then whoever they pick for the community spotlight, maybe you just make that all separate and then tie your updates to the stream still. Would you say that would work for you?
I think I'd put the stuff that's in game,
Yep.
like skins and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
like little bits of news. You know what I mean? Don't like obviously. So say there's on about our patch or we've got this happening or whatever, but we'll go
Right.
more in detail about it on the dev stream. They can all connect to each other, but I think kind of like saying this is the place for news, this is also the place for news. It's
Right.
like, okay, so are we getting double the news or are you just going to re-say what's from the blog? That's
Sure.
that's something that I'd like to know. Is there going to be double the amount of information because you can write it on the
Mm,
weekly blog, or is it just going to be the same spread out
right.
differently?
Yeah, I guess remains to be seen, obviously. I think I don't want to take too much credit for this. I really don't want to take too much credit for this. I've been screaming like a lot of this stuff though, like giving progress updates on different teams and what they're working on, dev spotlights. Like this is all stuff I've been talking for months about. So in a lot of ways, I really like that they're doing this because like it shows that they're actively listening. Even though it takes months for them to like seemingly move around like a weekly blog, like now it's like they actually are listening to some cool ideas. Granted, this all may suck, but seemingly they are looking at things and saying, how do we improve our communication style? I mean, like, granted, there aren't people who watch the dev stream, like, the dev streams don't really get that much viewers, maybe compared to like their page hits on the weekly blog, for example, but so I imagine it's probably going to be like they're going to have like the same sort of information, like the stuff that they can actually like write down will be kind of included in the weekly blog. But say for example, if Phil gets on like a tangent and something, like that's something you're probably going to want to tune in for the weekly stream for, like that one-on-one communication session is like not going to be represented in the blog, but you'll get that in the dev stream, I guess. But um you have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, just have to wait and see pretty much how they do it.
Yeah, I mean it's cool that like they're focusing on community spotlights and stuff. Like I've said it before, there's a lot of cool people within the community that deserve to kind of be, showcased, like a lot of the good work that they're doing, and I've said it before. I said one of the best ways as a developer to kind of grow your community is to to put a spotlight on the people that are, put in the work day to day, there's a lot of people that are really trying to, grow the community, grow the viewer base, grow this, and sometimes without like that developer support, those people get discouraged because it's like you're putting in all this work and you don't get recognized for a lot of the work you're doing. Because like, let's face it, like, it's not like Andy's gonna come on a stream every day to try to drive viewers up. That's just not part of his job. So like the content creators,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah. So the content creators are putting in the work, and I've even suggested like partner programs and stuff like that to really, incentivize these community members to try and grow the community. And then by growing the community, it's like a symbiotic relationship all the way around, right? Like the developers give the content creators something to give to the viewers, and the viewers watch the content creators. Content creators are more incentivized to play Avengers. Like there's a whole ecosystem you can build around, and maybe this is like that first step to try and building that ecosystem is by like spotlighting a lot of the people that are putting in that work. But it remains to be seen like what we get out of that. Like maybe it's just, instead of like the pictures at the bottom, maybe it's like videos, like, this person did like a really cool, or like a gifts or something. I don't know, but like there is something more to be had there, and I wonder if this is like that first step in doing it.
Yeah, I think that it is like you said. It's just nice to see that they're making progress on things, and and it's amazing. It's great to see, and obviously with community sort of spotlights. I mean, we've seen it so far. I think it's been Tony revealing and Sonic that have gotten.
Like shoutouts.
Yeah,
I think June has as well, but I'm not 100% if it's been in one of the recent blogs. So those three for sure in the recent blogs, but I think June's been shouted out before in a blog. Yeah.
and it's nice to see. And I think that I think the thing is and it's something that I've noticed as well with like a pattern for it is that it's been like guide videos and stuff like that, like
Mm.
how to make your first build and stuff like that. So all I'm saying is content creators out there, if you want to get on that blog, get your guide skills up, right? You better
Yeah.
get ready.
Yeah.
Show people how to do shit.
Tips,
That's
tricks,
it.
and different things happen in the game. Yeah, and I mean like that might be it, man. Like anything that's educational would be some of the stuff that would get noticed more, right? Like if you're making stuff that's educational for like the players that maybe aren't in depth, or maybe like a hidden secrets or kind of video, like yeah, I mean like that might be the best way to kind of get noticed, I guess, in that regards too, which is cool. I mean like there's not like the thing is like if you're speaking on content creators specifically, like the community is not that large, like the people that are here day in and day out, you could probably name off of like two hands, maybe two and a half hands, um and I've always said like and games can live and die based off like their content creators, right? Like if you have content creators which are putting out great content, which are inspiring people to check out that content, maybe there's a bleed back into the game. Like there's a lot of games out there that seemingly just are elevated to that next tier based off their content creators, right? So
Fortnite was for sure. You could say that Fortnite definitely got its growing popularity from the fact it was streamed very often.
right. So I mean like it's definitely like a give and take sort of situation. You need fun content, so content creators stream it, and then viewers are more incentivized to watch those creators. Yeah, like there's a whole conversation to be had here about how like maybe there's the fact that like Square Enix probably hasn't done their best at supporting the creators that are supporting the game. Maybe there's a full conversation to be had there, but I mean, maybe this is like the step to them fixing that situation.
Yeah,
Maybe,
yeah, I
maybe.
agree.
All right. I think that's it. In terms of like the major stuff to talk about today, other than the like the Sandra Sod is coming on stream on Tuesday, which is cool. I mean, I know there's a Reddit that there. I've seen some funny questions, man. I've seen some funny questions, but like, I mean,
Not
it's cool.
shocked.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's one of the things where like I'm happy that like the voice actors are like coming on to talk about the game, because like a lot of this stuff could just be a job for a lot of them. A lot of these are like industry professionals and stuff, and they're very passionate about the roles they play. But like, it's very easy to say like, no, I'm just here to be contracted out. Like, I don't want to spend any time that I'm not being paid for. Yada 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 yada. So it's nice to see that, like, Sandra is gonna come on, talk about the game, talk about Kamala, and just kind of reinforce that enthusiasm that seemingly is there. You just don't get to see a lot of it,
I think the interesting thing about Sandra though is that like this is kind of a new spotlight, right? Because obviously, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the biggest kind of thing she's ever done in regards to this kind of line of work.
I'm
I
just about
think.
to double check. Let's see. She was
Don't
on.
I don't want to completely wreck her shit. Just
She was in
potentially.
Avengers. Well, she was the lead of Avengers. She was in Modern Warfare as Nadia. I don't know. I didn't play the. I didn't play the
I
campaign, so I don't
think I
know
know who that
who that
is.
is. She was in Elder Scrolls Blades. She was in Fallout 76. But like other than that, like it's been like a lot of small roles. So like, to be fair, Kamala was the main character, right? You know what? Like this whole story was told through Kamala's perspective. So I mean, there's something to be
I
said
guess
there that like,
yeah, I'd say this
sure,
is probably the bigger role because obviously like main character, right, of
sure,
an
yep,
Avengers title. I think that's fair.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Um, so obviously with that in mind, then I think that like I think obviously she got like an award for it as well, playing as
Mm-hmm.
Kamala and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of like love for this
Yes.
for the game and stuff, which is amazing to see. You know, it's great.
Yep. No, I agree. So it'd be cool to see that. I don't think I'm gonna co-stream that just because I'm gonna let them have the spotlight for that one. It's not like a news thing at all. So like I'm just gonna watch it as a fan.
They said that, didn't they? They said like because it's on the Tuesday as well, so we got a big day
Yeah.
on Tuesday. You know, we've got Patch.
Yep.
Uh, yeah,
Yep.
we've got this interview and stuff. I'm looking forward to it. I think
Yeah.
Sandra's a very lovely woman.
Yeah. So I mean, Tuesday is actually like a bigger day than we would think. I guess all things considered. So, I mean, just really quickly. 1.6.0 fixes this patch coming as early as Tuesday, but it could be Wednesday. Villain sector fixes where they don't refresh or give us the right one. There's gonna be more options in the custom harm room coming alongside that patch. But the patch notes for them will be either late Monday or early Tuesday for anyone who's looking out for those patch notes. So that patch there 1.6 will have everything for Tachyon Anomaly inside of it, but the event won't go live until Thursday. Just a heads
Which
up.
we will assume is reset time. I'd be very shocked if
Yes.
not.
Yes, we should always assume that it's reset. So, yeah, I think that's it for the actual topics list. I got a few questions here.
Just
Oh,
what
yeah.
right before you do that,
Yeah.
I've been looking through Sandra's like filmography. I like
Yes.
that it says Elder Scrolls Blades, female human.
Oh,
she's,
she didn't even
she's
play like a character with a name.
no, just female human.
Hmm. Well,
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, you
fair
know what?
enough.
Sometimes if you need to be female human, then there you go.
True. True enough. All right. So, I got two questions just because these are going to be a little bit longer questions. So I forget who asked me this. I forget who asked me this. This was in stream. Oh, maybe this was Jazzy. Oh, this was Jazzy. So Jazzy Butters came on the stream on Friday, and he asked if we had to redo the Kree storyline in our own way, what would we change? And just because it was a little bit longer of a question, I really wanted to save it for the podcast episode instead of doing it on stream. So I have my kind of way. Like I've already talked a little bit about where I would change the narrative structure of the game. So, and I'll go into a little bit more in depth, Stardust, to give you a few seconds here to think of something. Um, but for me, I wouldn't have done the Tachyon Anomaly storyline right away. I wouldn't have done then the Kree storyline or hinted to it right away. I would have done something a little more involving Asgard Loki. Like you already set up these kind of storylines. For me, I would have rather kind of tie them up a little bit more, or I would have focused more on an Inhuman storyline. Maybe bring in the royal family, right? And then you could still do an Inhuman storyline and have AIM still be there, but I would have done a little bit more in terms of tying off a lot of the plot threads that you had already established instead of like jumping around to different things, right? You have the Loki thing, and now you're jumping off to Tachyons, and then you're gonna jump off into the Wakanda stuff, and then you're gonna jump off into the Kree stuff, right? Like it feels like what they're doing is they're setting. It's like for anyone who's familiar with a lot of the X-Men stuff right now, you pick up an X-Men trade, Dawn of X, for example, right? And what it seems like they're Dawn of X Volume 1, where you pick up this trade, and instead of getting, X-Men 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're getting Excalibur 1, you're getting Cable 1, you're getting X-Men 1. Like, it seems like they've decided that they're going to start off establishing many plot threads, and then over the course of the game's lifespan, they're going to tie them all up, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be, they're going to try and tie them up as the game goes on. Versus what I would have done is I would have gone from one storyline to the next storyline to another, making sure that maybe I tie up as much of it as I can before I move on to a different faction, different storyline. And then maybe there's one or two teases of something that kind of move forward with that story. But they've kind of just seemingly have just said, we're going to throw up a lot of this stuff here, and then as the game moves forward, we'll pull on this thread, we'll pull on that thread, we'll pull this one, that one, and we'll tie them up over the course of the lifespan. And what that kind of does is it kind of just seems messy. In the conversation we had earlier, it just feels messy with your narrative, and to me, that's probably not the way I would have done. But I mean, like, this, unfortunately, this conversation comes down to, like, what's the end result looking like versus the in progress work. You know what I mean? Like, the in progress work right now looks a little messy versus, like, at the end of it, maybe it all kind of flows together. But if it doesn't flow together at the end, we're going to look back and be like, holy shit, like, that was brutal, so without knowing, like, how the Kree storyline is going to go, how does Captain Marvel play into it, like, I definitely would have changed up the order of things first before we go, like, this whole kind of situation with, the Kree and the invasion and everything.
See, okay, so for me,
Mm.
I think it's something similar, but I think for me, I don't feel invested enough in this universe yet to really be like, oh shit, this Kree thing could like end it all. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
to me, there is no sense of danger because we're so early on. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? So like, if the Kree invasion is like in, like, I don't know, not Panthers obviously, but maybe like the next one, right? There is
Right.
no sense of dread because we all know that it's gonna be fine. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
Sure.
gonna be all right. They'll save the day, whatever. But if we have time to like do these other stories, close these plot threads and that, get ourselves really deeply connected with every single character, including the new ones, they want to get added, it's going to make it even more desperate. If we have these little cool plot threads, to say Bruce with Maestro, Thor with Loki, everyone's got their own individual stories that keep spanning out rather than being bundled in this little thing. Because obviously, in a lot of the operations that have come out, most of the Avengers, minus Tony, pretty much have been pretty voiceless.
Yeah.
So therefore, all the connection that I have is just because of who they are anyway. If I wasn't a Marvel fan, I would give no shits.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that if you're going to do the storytelling side of things and everything has to be deep-rooted story, you've got to make me care about everyone through, not just the campaign. You know what I mean? You've got to make me keep caring about them throughout. So the
Mm.
only one that seems to be getting a lot of spotlight, minus the new characters, is Tony for some reason.
Well,
Right?
everyone loves Iron Man, I guess, right?
Yeah, but there's a whole team there. Do you
I
know
know.
what I mean? Like,
I know.
use them,
Yep.
use them,
Yep.
and and there's more time to, like, there's more you can, again, stretch out those operations a little bit so they don't have to be so short.
Right.
But like, obviously, you sort of give it time to give everyone their own deserves. Maybe have an operation for all the heroes who are still there. Give them,
Mm.
finish it off. Thor operation with Loki, Hulk operation with, please don't be Abomination.
Right.
And everyone gets their own little, bits and bobs. Like, for example, when Bucky eventually comes into the game, it's a pretty big deal for Cap.
Yep.
I really hope they don't just squander that shit.
Yep.
Same, and it's but then we've already seen how obviously Maestro would affect Bruce, but they saved it for a sentence in a villain sector.
Right.
So I need to be connected enough to care about it. Because if you're not going to show me, then at least get me into these characters in this universe enough to make me worry about it for them.
Yep.
Do you know, they're not going to care enough. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean? And that's kind of, and so when we think of big Kree invasion, and when we think about the Avengers in the future died, it's dramatic because it's the Avengers. Because I'm a Marvel fan, but if I wasn't, I'd be like, okay,
Yeah, true.
I'm not bonded with them yet. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know anything else besides the fact that they're one big happy family. Yeah,
Right.
that's it. And
True.
I would like to sort of see them do more with them individually story wise and give them all a voice still than just leave them as background players, because then, for example, right, say I don't know, say Thor doesn't do anything else, right? Anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the Kree invasion and he dies, right? That's dramatic. That's Thor dying. But because in this universe you've given him nothing since
Yep.
the campaign at all, I'm going to be like, okay, well, they didn't like him anyway. They
Right.
didn't like him, so why should I care?
Right.
And there we go. But whereas, like, and again, to compare it to the MCU, because they've made me care about all the characters, if Thor dies, I'm going to be gutted.
Yep.
And they're the same character, sort of, but like because they've been built up differently, I care about one over the other. And I know that's longevity. I know it's unfair. The game hasn't been out as long as the MCU has existed, but like it's clear that the road that they've already gone down doesn't scream we're going to give you these deeply affectionate, passionate, emotional stories yet. But if we do, it's got, it just involves everyone. It's a big broad story, but I don't feel connected to the team or a singular person. I'm just interested to see what's next, and that's
Mm.
kind of not really how you do a good story, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yep. Yep.
and that's it.
All right. Well, there
It's
you
kind
go. So
yeah.
make us care about the characters and give us more time before you start giving us world-ending events that we seemingly have to
Yeah,
care
there
about.
you
Yeah.
go. Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. Like, and again, just to and MCU's been around for a while, but the reason why Infinity War works so well, and the reason why everyone wasn't pissed off, is because it
Right.
wasn't the second film in the series where everyone got fucking snapped away. Do you know what
Right.
I mean? We got to love these characters and adore them in this universe, and then it happened, and then I'll be honest, I cried. I was like, I was pretty gutted.
Yeah.
Um, and then when it found out that, because it pulls on your heartstrings because you've been with these guys for, and they've made you care. Whereas in this universe, you've given us Infinity War a year after Iron Man 1, sort of thing,
Right.
right? So
Right.
and it's kind of not really there yet.
Would
And
you
I
have
think
liked
it's a
this?
get. Sorry,
Sorry.
yeah.
No, I was gonna say, would you have liked to see the campaign fleshed out a little more then, like a longer campaign to kind of give you, um, maybe a longer like session with the Avengers together? Because like it's seemingly like, they're broken. You kind of get them together, then they're broken up within like the first 45 minutes, and then you come back together, you beat Modoc, and then there's not really like that next like, give another story mission or a story event, full cutscenes, full voice acted of them doing something else together, right? So like Modoc is now defeated, and now instead of moving right to the Avengers Initiative and doing all those mission chains, maybe it's like an assault on an AIM, like, and I say AIM lab, but like maybe it's an assault against AIM, or maybe it's the Avengers Tower mission at the end of it, where it's like you see them kind of have like a moment together, or you see them doing something else together instead of like, oh, here's like
Well,
the last mission of the campaign, Modoc's defeated, done, done, done. Now get to the online portion of the game.
and here's the thing again, and I can't. The first Avengers film, right? The
Yeah.
the post credit scene was the shawarma scene where they're sitting in the shawarma place eating food and that.
Right.
What nice little addition. They're all hanging out. They're
Mm-hmm.
humans, right? They are obviously the some are not, but they're acting like normal dudes, and I can
Right.
relate to that, and therefore I feel pretty like, oh, that's pretty cool. I would do that. You know what I mean? Whereas the
Right.
Avengers here, even though they're broken, don't seem humanized yet. Besides
Mm.
Kamala,
Right.
and even when like we saw Tony in the main campaign sleeping in a van, he's still living next to his fucking family mansion.
Right.
right, with a hobo beard and stuff. But it's like that campaign did it really well. But now that they're not on form again, but I guess they're the highest that they were for a while. It kind of loses that, and it just seems to be like, oh, new character, we're focusing everything on them.
Right.
None of these guys get any more spotlight. Fuck them, right? You
True.
remember them from the campaign, or you get nothing. And
True.
and this is kind of why life-ending world event does nothing for me, because if any of them die besides Kamala, I wouldn't be that bummed out. I'd be like,
True.
okay. And this is why, like, obviously it was obvious Cap was going to always come back to life, but it never made me go, oh no, because I've just met the Cap for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. True.
And
Yeah. No. I
because
mean,
there's
like,
yeah,
no. I mean, I agree with you that like you got to make people care before you throw like a world-ending event. And like the problem with that is like, they've teased this Kree invasion, right? They've teased it, and now we're going to like Wakanda, for example, or we got to do this storyline there. So like, is there an opportunity there to make us care about other characters, or is everyone just going to care about T'Challa? Well, everyone's going to care about T'Challa, so that means like the main bulk of the storyline and the story content is going to be focused around him. But because of that, like Thor, Widow, Cap, Hulk, for example, are just going to be relegated to background players. And because of that, yeah, I mean, like we lose a little bit of that. Like I'm connected to Captain America, but maybe I'm not necessarily connected to their Captain America. You know what I mean? I like Captain America the character because of like what I've seen in the movies, what I've read in the comics. This Captain America, what have I seen to be connected to him about? You know?
exactly. Like, and that's kind of my point. Is like,
Yeah.
obviously I care about them because they are the Avengers, but they're not. It's I care about them because Avengers in different media. If
Yeah.
I had never watched the film, read a comic, watched a cartoon, I
Yep.
would not give a single shit about
Yep.
any of these characters besides Kamala.
Yep. Because
Oh,
they've spent the most
and
time like
obviously the operations heroes, because they want, they're the focus, so to
right.
speak, and that's
Right.
and like, for example, there's an audio file in the game that says like, oh, Shuri, and with vibranium, and that made Cap shield, explained why not the A, sorry, the star is the way it is,
Mhm.
and all that. Why don't we get that? Can we
Right.
see that? Can we see them having that conversation, or can we see like a throwback to that, so that we don't have to collect that intelligence file and have to read it to be told, like,
It's
so
it's
Cap can get a little character moment. Like, there is ways to go about doing these rather than shoving it in a file.
I feel like we're already on brand with the Destiny community because like anyone who's played Destiny knows that like a lot of the cool lore is like baked into like the oh god, I forget the name, but like a lot of the cool lore isn't like set in a cutscene or it's not set in game. It's like tied to all these like minor things where it's like if you don't go and look for it, like you miss it, right? Which is why you have like in the Destiny community, you have channels simply dedicated to the lore of the game or the story of the game because like if you're just following some of the storylines and the the cutscenes and stuff like that, you miss a lot of the cool details that are kind of locked in all these like smaller places. And just when you started saying that, I was like, oh god, we're already at the Destiny level where we're like, just give us the cool stuff in the game. I don't want to go to a different part and read it. I want to see it be acted out. I want to see these things happen in the game. And it's funny how like common genres get common complaints. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where I'm just like, yeah, like this. I feel with the guys over in the Destiny community because like they've been clamoring for a lot of that stuff for a while, right? Like I'm gonna like mispronounce it, but Savathun, I believe it is, like Oryx's sister. There's a lot of cool stuff tied to her, but a lot of that's been tied to like text and stuff like that. Whereas like people want to know more and want to see this acted out in the game instead of reading it somewhere. In the same vein, we want
Yeah,
we want to know more about our characters, but we want to see that be acted out and not specifically tied to, um, codex files, for example. So yeah,
sure. Yeah, no. Yeah,
yeah.
no, I'm completely on board with that. Yeah.
All right. So last question by Feroce Knight in the Discord. He might beat me up for mispronouncing that. I'm going to talk about this. There's two good questions here. I'm going to save one for next week, just because we're coming up on that 2 hour mark, and I really don't want to push too hard, to go past it. So I'm going to do one of them, and we'll come back to the second one next week. So the one I really want to talk about is I don't think we're moving past the skin question, and this is a really good opportunity here to talk about implementation of different systems around the skins. But his question is: once Crystal gets back to the office and at 90 to 100% efficiency, do you think they will redesign release skins so that they don't reuse assets like Iron Man's Endo Sim / Superior Suit or have more animations? What do you think?
Explain that question again.
So basically, the question is: once Crystal gets back to the office and it's all hands on deck, they're working at a clip that they're comfortable with. Is there any possibility in your head that they go back and redo skins that they've already released, like the Superior Suit, and either kind of change it around to where more comic accurate, or maybe add more animations to this, like, or do you think they'll just kind of leave it as is and move on?
Leave it as is. To
Yeah.
be honest, there's and it's not, not to give you sort of like a one word answer there. I think that it would look really bad on their part to go back and redo him, because it's like, just looks like they half-arsed it before. Do
Oh,
you know
so
what I
it's
mean?
like
Like,
it's
it
like
just,
it's like admitting guilt, essentially, is what you're
yeah,
saying. Yeah.
it's yeah, pretty much. It's yeah, it's just admitting that it wasn't good enough.
I wouldn't mind seeing like a style option. You know what I mean? Like, um, now not a style option where you can like totally customize everything, but like a style option where say you bought their inspired look, and then you go to that costume and maybe you hit a button and it goes to the comic look, for example, right? So it gives you two options there. I don't know if that's something out of the realm of possibility. I wouldn't mind seeing that, but then once again, you open up the can of worms elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like you're not just doing it for
Exactly. Yeah.
that skin, you're doing it for all these other skins. And because of that, like how much work does that take away from things that they're trying to move out into the game, to get additional revenue, right? So like a lot of the time it's like the ripple effect. You do one thing and it ripples out and it ripples out. And because of that, you're kind of focused in on a lot of these other things. And yeah, like would it be cool if they could do something like that? Yeah, definitely. But like where do they stop and where do they begin becomes like the issue of that, right? If they do it for one, they're gonna have to do it for another and another, and it just be I imagine it just becomes like more of a headache than anything. So like, I would probably say like probably not, unfortunately. But I mean, who knows, right? Like things are never out of the realm of possibility. It's just for me, yeah, it's just one of those like probably not situations more than anything.
Yeah.
All right.
All
I
right.
think that's it, man. Because I know we're just over 2 hours here. So,
And I need a
um,
wee wee.
oh well, yeah. So I will let you do your shout outs then. Do your shout outs, do what you got to do, and then that'll be it.
All right, homies. So listen. So this this Thursday at reset time for the Tachyon Anomaly event, there is going to be a 12-hour charity stream featuring your boy on the Assemble for Charity page. If you go to Stardust versus Tachyons at Just Give Him, let me just make sure that's 100%. Yep. The donation goal at the minute is 500. It will be, yep, it will be live at reset for the 12 hours. It's a big thing. It's for National Eating Disorder Association. Any support that you guys can give will be absolutely amazing, and yeah, it just mean the world to me, to be honest. And for the actual just stream itself, it's Assemble for Charity on Twitch. For the Twitter, it's at A for Charity. So uh, please make sure to just even if you have no dollarage, which is fine, absolutely fine. Just being there to support and saying howdy would mean the world to me as well.
There you go. That is it. For me,
Yeah.
guys, obviously, I'll be live tomorrow with the stream. Stream. What is it this week? It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I'll be live Monday with PS5, be live Wednesday with Xbox, and then Friday for the dev stream. And then videos throughout the week as per patch video, blog video, so on and so forth. So yeah, so if you like this content, if you're new to the channel, you like some of this content, you want to stick around, you're new to Avengers, old to Avengers, but you just found the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And we'll see you guys next week. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about our impressions of Tachyon and what we like, what we don't like about it. Of course, we try to answer questions every week, so if you got some questions, make sure you hop into the Discord, and there's a whole channel there which we go through. We try to answer as many questions as we can. So lots of cool things to talk about, lots of things on the horizon, and we'll see you guys the next week here on your Avengers Weekly Recap. So that's it, guys. We'll see you next time. Later.
Bye.